Welcome to the Rare Historical Memories channel. Be sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss more videos like this one. Twin sisters, Ethel and Juanita Perry dazzled crowds in Buffalo Bill's Wild West, performing daring horse stunts that embodied spectacle, danger, and the restless energy of frontier entertainment. Photographed in Deadwood around 1876, Calamity Jane gained fame for her rugged life and bond with Wild Bill Hickok, later buried beside him in legend. In May 1925, Mary Shannon received 2 years in Nebraska State Prison for mayhem, a snapshot of Prohibition justice, unrest, and strict 20th century codes. In 1878, Dodge City, Kansas, 40,000 buffalo hides filled yards, a stark image of overhunting, frontier commerce, and the near extinction of America's bison. In 1861, a Pony Express rider sat mounted and ready, embodying speed, endurance, and daring, the fleeting spirit that connected frontier America through rapid communication. Born 1791, Thatlow Harjo fought 2 Seminole Wars, survived removal, served in 1861, and died in Oklahoma in 1904 at 113, a remarkable living link. 3 Southern Paiutes in 1874, wearing traditional buckskin, embody resilience and cultural identity as Native communities face pressures from westward expansion and government assimilation campaigns. Outlaw Jim Younger rode with brothers Cole and Bob, robbing banks and trains across the Midwest, leaving a legacy that shadowed the era's restless frontier. In 1902, Wyatt Earp opened the Northern Saloon in Tonopah, Nevada, the gunfighter reinventing himself as an entrepreneur amid the silver boom and frontier prosperity. In 1864 at Springfield, Missouri, Wild Bill Hickok posed with pistols and frontier attire, capturing the spirit, celebrity, and violence that defined America's Old West. Steamboat, Wyoming's legendary bucking horse, became an enduring emblem of the American West, his fierce spirit later inspiring the cowboy silhouette on Wyoming license plates. In 1922, at age 62, Annie Oakley staged a sharpshooting display. Little Sure Shot defying expectations and becoming an emblem of Western precision and independent womanhood. In 1869, Corinne, Utah, frontier storefronts lined a dusty street, hardware dealers, jewelers, and painters advertising ambition, everyday commerce, and railroad-linked growth in a hopeful Western town. Bat Masterson, Dodge City lawman, gambler, and later sports writer, appears in his 1885 portrait, blending frontier grit with gentlemanly poise, a study in reinvention across the American West. Emmett Dalton, youngest of the Dalton gang, joined late 19th century robberies striking banks and railroads, his name soldered to violence, notoriety, and the memory of the frontier. In 1908 Montana, 2 Absolute riders paused beside a snow-covered teepee in quiet forest, a tableau of endurance, tradition, and winter travel across ancestral lands. A Civil War soldier stands beside his horse, pride masking hardship and camaraderie, offering an intimate window into ordinary men tested by marches, hunger, and uncertain horizons. Around 1878, Lincoln County war partisans posed with rifles, reflecting New Mexico's fractured frontier where ranch interests collided, law wavered, and Billy the Kid built notoriety fast. A Pony Express poster promised 10-day mail from St. Joseph to California, audacious speed hauling letters across storms and mountain passes before the telegraph redrew western distance. In 1895, Woods County, Oklahoma, a teacher gathers students before a sod schoolhouse, honoring stubborn community spirit and frontier learning that stitched literacy into prairie life despite scarcity. In the early 1880s, Boss Caswell's Monkey Saloon stood in Granite, Colorado, a log bar where miners chased camaraderie, whiskey, and laughter against the Rocky Mountain frontier. In 1890s Alaska, a saloon performer posed in ornate attire, embodying resilience and allure, while frontier audiences sought escape, work, and fortune amid migration, cold, and precarious opportunity. In 1898 Arizona, crews laid railroad across barren desert, an iron path binding isolation to markets, carrying migrants, freight, and news as the modern American West gathered momentum. In 1906 Montana, Gros-Ventre families gathered outside teepees on Fort Belknap Reservation, daily life balancing cultural continuity, community strength, and resilience within constraining realities of reservation governance. In 1909 Utah, explorers and packhorses crossed hot slick rock near Navajo Mountain toward Rainbow Bridge, a photograph capturing endurance, steps, heat shimmer, and discovery in America's carved desert. From 1867 to 1888 in Virginia City, Nevada, miners emerged from shafts, exhausted yet unbroken, personifying peril, grit, and the labor powering the Comstock Lode's roaring silver economy. In 1885 Arizona, buckboard wagons forded the Gila River near San Carlos as settler families braved heat, currents, and scarcity, pushing survival, trade, and homesteads into contested desert. In 1904 California, land auctions packed a canvas tent with bidders and maps, speculation swirling as hopeful settlers staked futures during America's restless westward chase for property. In 1905, Hazen, Nevada, rough wooden saloons and small businesses lined a dusty street advertising vice, necessity, and opportunity, the unruly spirit animating a raw railroad junction town. Two women posed inside a appointed brothel in Miles City, Montana, an infamous cattle town where saloons and indulgence thrived, nightlife outpacing laws among scarcely 1,000 residents. In September 1866, John Ellis was accused of horse theft, one of the West's gravest crimes, exposing frontier turmoil, swift punishment, and communities struggling to enforce order. In 1889, Guthrie, Oklahoma, a new settler measured a raw town lot, embodying ambition, speculation, and uncertainty as the Oklahoma land run turned open prairie into surveyed property. Around 1900 in Missoula, Montana, Carpenter and photographer John Dunn paused with coffee beside his laundry wagon, proving frontier survival relied on craft, side work, and routine. A cowboy on horseback tightens his loop and watches cattle across open grasslands, an enduring image of ranch labor, independence, and the demanding rhythms shaping Western range life. In 1913, two Navajo riders paused before Casablanca's ancient ruins in Canyon de Chelly, contemplating lineage and sacred stone linking ancestral Pueblo worlds to living dine presence. Around 1876, Deadwood's camp crowded with tents, timber shacks, and fevered prospectors, a half-built city where rumor outran law, gold-sharpened tempers, and Wild Bill Hickok's legend arrived. Cadet George Armstrong Custer at West Point in 1859 grips a Colt side hammer, foreshadowing the audacious officer whose fate collapsed on Montana's plains at the Little Bighorn. In 1900, Bisbee, Arizona, men crowded a saloon table over faro, revealing gambling's magnetism, short tempers, and precarious wages fueling frontier nights between brutal shifts underground. In September 1866, John Ellis faced indictment for horse stealing, a capital frontier offense that distilled lawlessness, public spectacle, and grim certainty in America's turbulent western territories. In 1893, Arizona, Apache teamsters delivered hay to settler corrals, a vignette of adaptation and uneasy commerce as indigenous labor was folded into markets displacing their homelands. On September 14, 1904, outlaw John Sontag lay mortally wounded. A haunting photograph caught his final breaths as armed men surrounded him, frontier justice sealing a violent life. Around 1860, mountain man James P. Beckwourth posed with rifle and cane. Born enslaved, he became explorer, trader, and master storyteller, bridging cultures across the contested American frontier. This weathered wooden hall anchored frontier town life, hosting dances, meetings, and deals. Its walls preserve migration's hopes, rough hospitality, and communal heartbeat sustaining communities in the West. In 1886 Texas, Apache prisoners rested beside the Southern Pacific tracks near the Nueces River, somber witnesses to displacement, captivity, and unresolved conflicts shadowing America's expanding frontier. In 1907 at Ellis Ranch, Texas, cowboys wrestled a wild bronc fighting the saddle, a ritual revealing endurance, teamwork, and the stubborn will that defined ranch survival. In 1886, Loup Valley, Nebraska, a family paused beside their covered wagon, an enduring image of hardship, faith, and determination driving America's western migration across rivers and prairie. In 1893, families and miners gathered at Hillside Mine, Cripple Creek, Colorado, a tableau of gold rush hopes, community resilience, and labor fueling paths toward prosperity. Nellie Bly, pioneering reporter, defied 19th century limits with fearless investigations. Her 72-day trip around the world in 1889 reimagined women's possibilities and captivated a modern, newspaper-driven public. Photographed around 1875, Dick Brewer, Lincoln County lawman and regulator leader, rode with Billy the Kid before falling in 1878 during the gunfight at Blazers Mills. In 1925, Wyatt Earp appeared as an aging legend, no longer the feared lawman, standing reflective and reserved, carrying the weight and contradictions of a West already disappearing. In 1912 San Diego, 20-year-old Juanita McCamey was arrested for criminal conspiracy after joining a labor protest, exposing early tensions over free speech and workers' rights in America. In Montana, cowboys branded calves inside a dusty corral, a scene of tough hands, rope burns, and inherited rituals that defined cattle country seasons and stubborn pride. An undated portrait shows Oglala Lakota Chief Irontail beside Black Diamond, the bison, symbolizing identity, resilience, and the sacred relationship between native nations and once immense buffalo herds. In 1890 at Ouray, a stagecoach paused before the Beaumont Hotel, whose 1887 elegance hosted presidents and magnates, marrying mining wealth with European style amid Colorado's Stern Mountains. Around 1900 at Fort Apache Reservation near White River, Arizona, an Apache man sat for a portrait during years of relocation, cultural suppression, and endurance-sustaining native survival. In 1888, James McCrae's sod homestead on the Middle Loop River testified to frontier families building with earth, weathering winds, and coaxing harvest from Nebraska's vast, demanding plains. In the 1870s, a Uinta Ute man sat with his dog, a testament to companionship, hunting, and tradition woven into survival across high valleys and sage country. Bob Younger rode with brothers Cole and Jim, striking banks and trains across turbulent Midwest, his name etched into outlaw memory and romanticized afterglow of the frontier. In 1907 in the Arizona desert, a rider hauled water from a lonely well while his horse drank, a brief mercy beneath scalding light where distance ruled decisions. On August 8, 1901, settlers crowded Anadarko town site, Oklahoma. Auctioneers, canvas tents, and makeshift banks choreographed a feverish birth of community, speculation, and surveyed streets on the prairie. Born enslaved in 1838, Bass Reeves became a deputy U.S. Marshal, capturing more than 3,000 outlaws with strict integrity, a towering lawman of the turbulent American West. In 1906 on the Flathead Reservation, Chief Eagle of the Salish posed in full regalia, embodying cultural endurance, spiritual authority, and dignity amid America's rapid transformation. In 1889, Guthrie's first blacksmith shop rose from prairie dust, an emblem of craftsmanship, resilience, and essential trades that anchored newborn communities during the surge of westward expansion. In 1887 Montana, 7 Crow chiefs sat outside a wooden building, their garments and bearing expressing leadership, cultural resilience, and identity amid pressure and treaties reshaping the plains. In 1912, Pancho Villa sat astride his horse with crossed bandoliers, an enduring emblem of revolution, defiance, and charismatic command that ignited followers during Mexico's convulsive upheaval. In the 1880s, Deadwood's Gem Theater Bar thronged with drinkers, gamblers, and performers, Al Swearengen's notorious enterprise mirroring profit, exploitation, and unruly culture that flavored frontier boomtown nights. In 1903, shortly before her death, Calamity Jane was photographed at Wild Bill Hickok's grave in Deadwood. Honoring a bond, she was later buried beside him as requested. In 1878, captured Cheyenne were confined in Dodge City Jail while yearning to return to the Black Hills, their imprisonment marking displacement, resistance, and grief on the frontier. Photographed in Utah around 1869, Chief Little Soldier of the Northwestern Shoshone holds arrows across his lap, projecting leadership, cultural strength, and resilience during wrenching years of change. In 1888, 4 Apache scouts sat for a studio portrait, serving the United States Army while embodying cultural endurance and the complex alliances that define contested frontier history. Near Silver Plume, Colorado, circa 1900, a miner shares a quiet moment with his loyal dog, companionship and resilience, sustaining hard mountain labor in the American West. In Castlegate, Utah, between the 1890s and 1910s, a mining family posed outside their wooden home, showing resilience, frontier hardship, and growing communities shaped by industrial expansion. In 1875, San Juan County, Colorado, miners camped at the North Star and Mountaineer Lodes, enduring alpine wilderness while chasing fortune during America's turbulent mining frontier. A Uinhuam Paiute hunter in southwestern Utah, circa 1873 into 1874, takes aim with a rifle, symbolizing adaptation, resilience, and cultural survival amid encroachment on native homelands. Around 1900 in Arizona's Four Peaks, trappers and hunters posed with dogs, burros, and pelts, an enduring image of rugged frontier survival and family labor in hard country. Wild Bill Hickok, famed gunslinger and lawman, was admired for refined style. Elegant attire set him apart as one of the best-dressed legends of the West. Photographed by William Goldman between 1892 and 1900, a woman in lavish dark attire appears in gelatin silver, hinting at social life inside brothel parlors. In August 1872, the first house rose on the site of Dodge City, humble beginnings that grew into a frontier settlement legendary in Western lore. On January 2, 1883, George W. Parsons posed in Tombstone after a trip from Sonora, an attorney-turned-banker who preserved frontier history through meticulous daily diaries. In 1895, a heavily armed posse assembled in Yuma, Arizona, ordinary citizens temporarily sworn by the sheriff to uphold fragile territorial law and deliver rough frontier justice. In 1900, Langtry, Texas, Judge Roy Bean's saloon doubled as his courtroom, the law west of the Pecos, where liquor, spectacle, and improvised verdicts mingled into frontier folklore. On September 25, 1917, Mattie Brown entered Nebraska State Prison for pickpocketing, serving 1 year, a wartime case revealing routine crime, swift punishment, and institutions managing home fronts. In 1882, at Forest Grove School, Oregon, students practiced blacksmithing, a photograph capturing industrial training, frontier schooling, and the determination to equip youth for America's transforming economic future. A covered wagon carried families westward, home and vessel of hope, pioneers enduring hunger, storms, and uncertainty while seeking land, survival, and a better future across untamed country. In 1876 Deadwood, Dakota Territory, Gold Rush streets swarmed with fortune seekers, wooden storefronts, saloons, noise, and danger, expressing the relentless improvisational spirit of America's rowdy mining frontier. In 1889, Humboldt County, California, men posed inside the Table Bluff Hotel and Saloon, trophies and bottles overhead, camaraderie and bravado distilling the rugged culture of the West. Born February 26, 1846, Buffalo Bill Cody became an icon of the American West, famed scout, buffalo hunter, and impresario whose touring Wild West shows shaped global imaginations. In 1895, New Mexico, a family posed outside their home while a native servant held their child, revealing cultural crossings, labor hierarchies, and intimacies on America's contested frontier. Working women on Alaska's frontier arrived from many backgrounds seeking opportunity like miners, investing earnings in saloons, hotels, and restaurants that helped build the region's early economy. In 1925, Wyatt Earp gazed across the Colorado River toward Arizona, an aging lawman reckoning with a vanished frontier where recollection, celebrity, and history drifted into reinforcing myth. Kate Rockwell, Klondike Kate, enthralled Gold Rush crowds with song and dance, the flame of Yukon, whose ambition and charisma embodied frontier entertainment sweeping Alaska and American West. Photographed in 1948, the final reunion of Little Bighorn survivors gathered weathered faces and memories, a living bridge of resilience, remembrance, and the enduring legacy of Native history. In January 1898, Nebraska, Goldie Williams, called Mag Murphy, was arrested for vagrancy. Her defiant mugshot radiates hardship, grit, and the unbowed spirit of frontier women. In 1886, 11-year-old Jimmy McKinn, taken by Geronimo's Apache a year earlier, appeared among them, a haunting emblem of captivity, affection forged, and conflict before Geronimo's surrender. Portrait of Pat Garrett, famed frontier sheriff whose controversies linger. Remembered for investigation and the killing of Billy the Kid, he symbolizes law's hard edge on turbulent borders. In February 1926, Frank Carter, the Omaha sniper, was arrested and later convicted of 2 murders. He confessed to many more, failed insanity plea, executed in 1927. In 1909 Seattle, women posed before the Klondike Dance Hall and Saloon, freezing a moment when music, nightlife, and frontier enterprise shaped community rhythms in America's booming Northwest. Photographed days before his death in January 1917, Buffalo Bill Cody appears weary yet proud, the aging showman whose Wild West spectacles forged America's enduring frontier mythology. Between 1867 and 1888 in Virginia City, Nevada, exhausted miners surface from shafts, faces blacken, embodying peril, endurance, and the relentless labor powering the Comstock's silver-fueled boomtown economy. In 1878, Dodge City singer Dora Hand was fatally shot by James "Spike" Kennedy. The killing stirred lawmen's pursuit, public grief, and her unusual burial at Boot Hill,